Hello viewers, today we will be cleaning and servicing a BreezeWay oscillating VN. This is an 8-inch oscillating VN, model DF-981. Household use only. Use anywhere else is strictly forbidden by the China. 0.6 amps, which is not 30 watts, so I'm not really sure how much power it's supposed to draw. We may never know. I suspect this is a product of the 2010s. I don't think this is that old at all. Does not have the UL sticker on there. Of course, it could have just come off at some point. I forgot how this runs, so let's plug it in and give it a quick test before we begin. Actually, it seems to run okay. It's not even labeled. Oh dear. So that's going to be high speed. This is low speed. See how the oscillations are working. They seem to be working okay. Okay, so it actually doesn't need a whole lot of servicing. It's more just cleaning. In fact, the bearings are in quite good condition. Very good. Nonetheless, let's begin. We'll start by taking off the guard, which has these clips around it. Just kind of push that over the metal guard, pull it forwards. The blade probably just pulls right off. It came off very easily too. Okay, now we have some bolts. Okay, now that should release this. And then the oscillation mechanism has to come off. Or the mechanism is the control. And we have a kind of average size shaded pole motor. And now we have a singular screw on the back, which we will remove, and that should release the rest of the housing. Okay, doesn't get much easier than that. And then to get at the rear bearing, we're going to have to remove, I think we can probably remove only the top of this oscillation mechanism. Okay, and we do have access to the rear bearing now. There's plenty of lubrication in there for the oscillation. And then, oh, you know what? In order to clean that out thoroughly, this doesn't need to come off. And I'd rather it not, because there's those stupid balls in there probably that will come out, and that's a pain in the rear to get it back in. So I think I'm actually going to put that back in, and then I will just take this whole assembly off, because there's nothing that we're going to do inside the gearbox anyways. And instead of that, I will remove these two screws here in the front. Oh, that one's stripped, isn't that nice? I'll remove these two screws instead. Okay, now I can just slide this right out of there and access the shaft. And I believe this will pull off of here. No, it won't. Those are some weird, like, reverse thread kind of screws. Because the spin down time is perfectly fine, I'm not going to get too out of control here with trying to clean the rear bearing. I think we're just going to leave it alone. Alright, so now we can wash it. We'll wash the base with the motor attached because the electrical doesn't go past here, so this can all get wet and that's no problem. And we'll wash all the plastic parts as well. Everything's been cleaned, so now we'll take a look at the motor. And we're not going to do a whole lot of servicing here because there's not much to be done. It's running pretty much okay as it is. And if this shaft is too dirty to slide this off, oh, it'll come off just fine. Okay, so I'll clean this off here in the front bearing. And I think the rear bearing, I'm just going to leave it alone because it's not dirty. That really wasn't dirty at all. Okay, so I'll just put a couple drops of oil on the back here and then we'll put it back in. Clean this off a little bit. Again, nothing really coming off, so it's good to go. Got the oil here. Two kinds of oil that we can use. You can use the 3-in-1 blue can. You see, it is for Fians. Lawnmowers and Fians and power saws. Or we can use Zoom spouts for electric motors, which is this. So there's no question about the right kind of oil to use. So I'll put some of this oil in here. That's adequate. And then we'll go in the back here, and I'll show this better with the front bearing, but I'm just going to fill up the wick here as well. I'm going to leave that that for a moment so the oil can seep into the bearing. And what I was doing there was I was filling up. These holes are kind of small on this one, but there's holes here, and then there's a wicking material in there, and I'm going to let the oil seep in through these small holes. Oops, hopefully not fling all over the place, and go into that wick. And that will slowly release the oil into the bearing as is needed. Okay, so let that set for a little while and absorb the remainder of that lubrication, or that lubricant rather. Okay, the lubrication has seeped into the material there. Now we can reassemble. Okay, now the bearing is probably going to be stiff. The shaft is stiff, and it is. So we're going to take a screwdriver and we're going to strike that shaft a couple of times, and that should free it right up. Okay, so now we're ready to reassemble the remainder of the components. We'll begin with the back cover. I was just thinking how this is going so easily too. Doesn't really have anything that aligns it other than the screw itself, so you have to make sure that it's in perfect alignment before we continue. Okay. It's not on all the way. Now it is. Maybe it wasn't on all the way. This, of course, is a cheap fan, but it seems like it was made with enough decency that there's enough air getting through the motor. It's got decent vents on both sides, so at least it has that going for it. Okay, so now it's all assembled. Let's give it a final test. Start out on low. It's a little noisy, but the airflow isn't bad. And high. It's throwing out a decent amount of air. Back to low.